Hello, welcome back. We are slightly interrupting the flow of the order of movies that I was going to review for 1971 because I was planning on doing all of the ones by directors that we had seen in 1970 and then go on to the new directors. However, this is a particularly personal movie, in a way. Let's Scare Jessica to Death, because this was filmed in Middlesex County, Connecticut, where my family lives and where I lived for about 6 years. In fact, the outside house shooting location is right on the street that my father lives on, and he lives about half a mile down the street from this house. The house has been vacant since this movie was filmed in 1971. So it's been empty for 50 years and it's completely dilapidated. The people of that town, Old Saybrook, Connecticut, think that the house is haunted. People mostly don't go near it. It also has warning signs around it. You're not allowed to go there. It is owned by the person who, as far as I know, owned the house when this was being filmed, and no one ever moved back into it after. That's the local lore. Okay, although I looked it up and the interior shots were actually done one town away in Essex, Connecticut. Film was also shot in Chester, Connecticut, and East Haddam, Connecticut, and Lyme, Connecticut. These are all in Middlesex County, which is a lesser populated county in Connecticut. The Connecticut River runs through it. There's a scene in this movie where they go on a ferry that still runs today. The ferry fits like 3 cars on it. It goes across the Connecticut River. So there aren't that many bridges in this part of Connecticut because it's just not that densely populated. So in between the 2 bridges, which it would probably take like 20 minutes to get from the southernmost bridge to the next bridge up the river, like halfway up there's this ferry. So they do shoot the ferry. So that was cool. It was cool to see these locations. They go to a cemetery in East Haddam, Connecticut. It looks like a very Connecticut style cemetery. I've been wanting to watch this movie for years, ever since I moved there in 2007. I heard the lore of the haunted house of Old Saybrook, which is where they shot the outside of this movie. So anyway, I never got around to watching it. And other members of my family have wanted to watch it too, since they all live there and stuff like that. So it's, between Christmas and New Year's, we're sitting there with my family, feel like we want to watch a movie together, and my brother suggests, why don't we watch Let's Scare Jessica to Death? So I said, it's 1971 anyway, we'll just do that. So that's that background. Anyway, first off, I'm going to point out the score of this movie is very unsettling, okay? Because you can hopefully hear that in the background. That's my favorite part of the movie. However, I don't really like anything else about this movie, and I feel a little strangely about it because I have multiple friends that like this movie a lot. It's come highly recommended. It's highly rated. If you look online, it has some mixed reviews, but probably more positive than negative. So what's the deal here? What's this movie about? Okay, well, first of all, look at this poster. There's no skeleton hands in the movie, okay? So don't get too excited for, like, that level, okay? It's actually a lot more serious than what this poster looks like. It's about a family that... Well, no, I shouldn't say a family. It's about a husband and wife and friend, male friend, that move into this house in Connecticut. I think in the movie they really set it in the town of Chester, which is like a few towns away from where Old Saybrook is. But anyway, it's right on the river. Okay, they cross the ferry to get there. They do use the Chester downtown Main Street as a shooting location. So it's set in Chester, a very small town. Definitely less than 10,000 people in Chester. It might even be like less than 5. I should have looked that up. I do know that it doesn't have its own school district, which is rare for Connecticut because it's that small. Anyway, Chester, Connecticut, they move into this house, and when they move in, there's a woman in there, and she's like squatting in there. So they got to figure out what to do with her, okay? That's like the basic premise, okay? I'm not sure how much you want to hear about it. I'm going to say I'm giving this a 2 out of 10. I'll talk more about the plot in a minute, but It's really slow, and even the people that praise it on reviews online do acknowledge that it's incoherent. And if you know me, which you may realize or have realized from other videos, that I am not a fan of incoherent plots. Okay, dreamlike is fine with me. Okay, unrealistic is totally fine. Surreal is fine. Okay, but when the plot is incoherent, that means it doesn't make sense, okay? And for an incoherent film to be good, in my opinion, there needs to be a redeeming value, like the effects are really good, or the acting is really good, or something. So here I would say the acting is bland. The effects are very minimal. There's almost none, okay? It's more about the story. But also, there aren't a lot of characters. There, to me, the cinematography is nothing to write home about. I don't know. I just don't. There's nothing in this movie that catches me at all. Like, it was hard. I watched it with other people, and so I didn't skip through it or anything like that. But if I had watched it on my own, it would have been rough. At the end of the movie, we discussed it. No one I watched it with enjoyed it at all either, so it wasn't just me. So I give it a 2 out of 10. One of the lowest scores I've ever given on this channel. Some people think I'm a little bit lenient or high scoring, okay? Because I usually don't really go below 6 that often. 5 if I think it's like pretty bad. To me, 5 is like a failing score, but this is a 2 because at a certain point, instead of starting at a 10 out of 10 and then knocking stuff off for problems, this is a movie where there's nothing good about it, so it starts as a 1 out of 10, and then I'll add a point for stuff that I like. I like the score, okay? Now, the acting isn't horrible. I have seen worse acting. But I saw someone say, and it might have been Joe Bob Briggs, or maybe he was quoting someone else, but the worst thing you can do in a movie is be boring. And this movie bored me for the entire duration. Like, at the beginning of it, there's a scene where they're in a Connecticut graveyard taking rubbings, and I was like, okay, this is cool. This is something like I've literally done before in a very similar looking cemetery in the same area, so that was cool. But then after that, like, just the way the acting is, the way the story's written, like, nothing is that great. Now, to me, I will go, if you want to watch this, you can hop off. I'm not sure where it's really available to legally stream. You might have to buy it. But, oh, and I also wanted to say, this is a Paramount release. Paramount is one of the big Hollywood studios. It wasn't produced by Paramount, but it was purchased and then distributed by Paramount. And from what I read, it had a wide release. This is unlike most of the movies we talk about on this channel. Most of the movies we talk about are independently produced and distributed because in the early 70s, horror was not very popular. I'm surprised that Paramount picked this up. It was the first horror movie they distributed, if I'm not mistaken, since 1968, when they distributed Rosemary's Baby, which was obviously a giant hit, success, classic, okay? William Castle produced it, and it was distributed by Paramount. They didn't choose to distribute another horror film for 3 years, and then when they finally did, it was this one. So that is like weird to me. Okay, anyway, here's the like plot point that I didn't say earlier. It turns out that the girl that was squatting in the house is a vampire. But this is another problem. Like, I don't need everyone's definition of vampire to be the same, okay? But this sorry, I'm like trying to collect my thoughts. This vampire doesn't have fangs, okay? Can go out during the light, okay? Doesn't sleep in a coffin, okay? Like, nothing that you would think of like Bram Stoker's Dracula or like Carmilla or any of the like vampire archetypes apply to her, except that she bites people on the face. Sometimes on the neck, sometimes on the face. And then you find out later all the people of the town have like a cut on their face. It's not even vampire holes, it's like a cut. And so it turns out that this vampire has been feeding on all of these different people of the town, but like it doesn't turn them into vampires. So I would have preferred if they just didn't even call her a vampire. Like, I guess she does bite them on the face and drink their blood, but I don't know. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. I was a little disappointed because there are very few horror films filmed in Connecticut, so I was pretty excited for this, but not for me. I will acknowledge that I know people that like it very much, so it might be worth a watch for you, especially if you like that dreamy type film, although I don't think it really makes sense. The score was cool, though, and it was very unsettling, so I will give it that. 2 out of 10 for me. I'll see you next time.